Hello and welcome to our Spotlight series tonight. I just realised I'm sort of sitting in the dark here, so it's very dark where I am. Sorry about that. I'm Monique Cooper and I'm the president of the MDDA. And welcome everyone for joining us today. I'm just going to give you a quick moment just to let a few people come into the platform, and I'll be right back with you in a moment. So if you can just, I'll just play this video again and give me about 1 minute and I'll be back with you then. Thanks. Thanks, Nadine. Good evening and welcome everybody to our Spotlight event for this evening. We've got a great guest lined up for tonight, and I see now a few extras have joined us. So thanks for coming in. And just a reminder, this session will be recorded for later viewing, but we expect to run through till about 8:15 tonight. And then anyone that would like to join us in a chat room afterwards, you're most welcome to do so. And we've got a new parents chat room and just a chat room for the RARA IEM. So anyone online tonight that is representative really of any of the IEM families, but in particular the RARA MSUD, tyrosinemia, homocystinuria, etc. We've got a room set up for you to chat afterwards. So before I invite our guest to the stage, I've just got a few slides that I'm going to run through. So we obviously have numerous events running in the hub. So welcome to any of our new people that are online tonight. We have these events on a regular basis with spotlights once or twice a month, along with our MDA updates. We've got a few things planned between now and the end of the year, including a virtual happy hour next week, and then our final formal event for the year, which is an MDA update, a VitaFlow cooking workshop, and our final spotlight series for the event for the year. We may well be announcing an end of year Christmas celebration online. We're just finalising details for that, so we'll be providing that with you shortly. A quick yell out to our sponsors of our hub. So this hub has been running since I believe about April, May it was this year that we first launched the hub, and really pleased and grateful to have three sponsors that have supported us with this initiative. Nutricia, who are our platinum sponsor, and unfortunately Renee can't be here tonight, but Nutricia have been a sponsor for this series and came on board very eagerly at the start, so we really appreciate their support. We have VitaFlow as our gold sponsor, who again, as I mentioned, will be doing a cooking presentation at our next event. And a new sponsor to the hub is PTC Therapeutics, who have come on board also as a gold sponsor, and we'll hear from them at our next event as well. So thank you for our sponsors for your ongoing support. For those of you that attended our AGM, which was held last week on the hub, it was a great event, and we do have a recording that is there on the timeline. So for any of you that missed that would like to check in and catch up on the number of initiatives that we're running at the moment, in particular a lot of our advocacy efforts and just the work that's gone on behind the scenes this year with our volunteer and executive team, please tune in to that recording. and it'll fill you in on everything that's been happening, and with also some plans for next year. But just to quickly run through a few of those, you will see coming up in the coming weeks a new campaign that we're launching, which is specifically targeted at our adult PKU audience, and it's really designed to just hit the attention with them and encourage them to return to care. So a number of our adults who were taken off diet, maybe in their early ages or early teens, and we have been fortunate to have many of them return to diet and return to the PKU community and really get their PKU back in check. But this is a campaign to attract those out there that maybe aren't under the care that they should be, or that they know is available to them. And that's going to start with some Facebook advertisements the early weeks in December, and continue on through next year to a whole awareness campaign, which is also going to stem into a general awareness campaign around adults and management and access to all care options for PKU. So keep an eye out for that, and there'll be some ways that you can help support that, share the materials and get involved. We also have next year our Great Protein Challenge back, May 2022. It will be back. For those of you that don't know much about it or haven't done it before, please do check it out. Information will be loaded to our website in the coming weeks, and you'll all be encouraged to play along next year and help to not only earn some money but generate some really important awareness for low protein IEMs. We also were fortunate to announce at our AGM our in-person retreat is back, and we finally have some dates locked in, the 7th to 9th of October at Sanctuary Cove. It's going to be a fantastic event. This is 3 years coming. It's a gorgeous 5-star resort that we'll be staying at, very family friendly, and some really great prices and subsidised prices that we have for our MDDA members that make it very much a weekend away that's in reach for so many of you. So once the information comes out, it'll be early in the new year. Make sure you register and get along for that. It's a fantastic event, so don't miss it. We will also have back this year our global conference, our global virtual conference, a date to be announced, but that's a fantastic way of catching up on everything that's happening, particular to PKU, but it does also stem across some other IEMs as well, in terms of finding out so much about the latest research, initiatives and emerging therapies that are underway to treat all amino acid-based IEMs. So keep an eye out for those dates too. But that's just a quick update from me. Tonight, I'm very pleased to have a spotlight series which is focused on the gorgeous little Ava, who is almost 4 years old, I believe. And we have her mum here, Tammie, to share with us her story of Ava with her diagnosis of MSUD, one of our rarer IEMs. And before I invite Tammie to the stage, I will invite my counterpart, Louise Healy, who's the Vice President of MDDA, who's going to introduce Tammie and also facilitate this session. Hey, Lou, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Hi, everyone. Good to see you all here.
We'll get you unmuted. Let's try unmuting you again.
Am I unmuted now?
You're good.
Okay. Hi, everyone. And
no, still can't hear you there. Oh, it might be me. I'm on mute. It's my problem. There you go, Lou. You there?
Yep, I'm good to go.
That was my problem. I'm going to leave you to be and let you go.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for being here tonight and to hear another fascinating story in this Spotlight series. And we've heard some great stories so far this year. And it's good to be spotlighting a different condition, as we've tried to do throughout the year, and learn more about the specific challenges of some of the conditions we don't hear so much about. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Tammie Rees to the main stage. Hi, Tammie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Thank you so much for making some time to talk to us about MSUD. And although lots of us probably know about it broadly, this is a great opportunity to know more about it. But I understand that you had a bit of an interesting journey with getting the diagnosis. Do you want to tell us a bit about that to start us off?
We did. We had a couple of heel pricks taken. We had 2 in hospital, and we weren't actually sure if they were faulty or if that's just what they were telling us, because Ava's quite mild in terms of the MSUD. So I think she had sort of an elevated level, but they weren't quite sure. Then they did it again. I think we had 2 in hospital, and then the maternal health the maternal health nurse came out to our house and said, oh, we just need to do one more. And I think she would have been 7 days old then, sent it off, and then get the phone call at 16 days, and off we went.
Okay, so were you starting to get worried when they did the third one, or you were just like, oh, this must be what they're doing?
I was oblivious to the whole thing, had no idea what was going on. So, yeah, it was great.
Okay, and so tell us about the phone call, and I guess because I think that's a shared experience with a lot of people in our community. You know, so day 16, you've done all these things, you're going along okay. How did that all go, the phone call?
Yes, so I was determined to breastfeed Ava because my first one I had issues with her. She was floating along fine, sleeping well, doing everything a baby should do. We'd literally just dropped off her older sister to daycare, walked home. I was literally about to have a nap, and I thought that the phone rang. I don't normally answer random numbers. I thought I'll just answer this, and missed it, but listened to the voicemail, and it was just the paediatrician at our local hospital in Shepparton, because we're in country Victoria, just saying he needed to speak to me about my daughter Ava, and could I call him back? And I was like, we've not been to hospital, like, what is this? So I called him back, and I don't fully remember exactly what he said, but basically he was just like, you need to get into hospital, you need to bring her. And I was like, okay, like, do I wait till she's had her nap? What do I bring? And he's like, you need to bring her now. Bring your nappy bag. So I called my husband, and he didn't answer, but he was working in Shepparton. So I left a message on his phone saying something about Ava and maple syrup, and meet me at ED. And the doctor had said, don't Google it on your way in, because what you're going to see is, the worst, and brain damage. And I'm thinking, okay, this is great. But he's like, is she sleeping well? Like, is she lethargic? Is she vomiting? And I'm like, she's doing everything a baby does. I don't know. So then we got in there. Brent met me there. They put us straight into another little room in emergency. And so we were then like, something's not right. Like, we're not in ED. We're in a special little room off to the side. They came in, like, got our details, took us through, and I think within 15 minutes we were on the children's ward there, and I went to feed her, and then they came in and they just said, no, you've got to stop. Melbourne said, we don't know what level we're at or anything like that. So then they tubed her. I can't remember what that was. I think it was just like a glucose tube to make her think she was full. But I didn't want to watch that. So they just took her, did that, brought her back. I had no idea what was going on. Brent was actually taking it all in. I just thought I had a baby with brain damage. But yeah, then they come in and they're like, okay, the plane will be here at 6 o'clock. And we were like, what is going on? We still didn't realize we were going to Melbourne. And it was middle of December. So it was one of those 40-degree days. And at that point, they didn't know if I could fly with her or if we had to drive and meet her there. So that was fun. But then by the time they got there, the sun had gone down and I was allowed to fly. I just couldn't take anything with me. And Brent beat us there. So we had a 3-hour drive from here to the children's. But because you have to go from the hospital out to the airport and then get into the plane and then out to the Essendon and then into the ambulance again. Yes, he beat us. And then we're there for a week.
Wow. Okay. So that's a pretty traumatic start.
Yeah.
How did you cope with all of that? And I guess all the logistics of another daughter that you had to deal with in childcare and all of those things to work out. So tell us about that first week and what you learned.
Yeah, well, that was the first time we were away from Lexi, her older sister, and we literally just had to leave her at daycare for grandma and granddad to pick her up. Thankfully, they only live very close to us, so they took her in for the week. She was old enough to understand, but not, just didn't know where we were. She got extra days in daycare, so that sort of just helped with grandma and granddad and her normality, just to keep her in routine going there. So that was okay. I was a mess. I had no idea. I wasn't taking anything in. I was still, I think, expressing every 2 hours and trying to feed her, and Brent was taking it all in. I just remember by the time they hooked her up and everything, it was like 10 o'clock at night on our first night. And Joy just explained it really in English terms. This is what it is. This is what we're going to deal with. Go and have rest. She just kept saying, go and have a rest. We'll see you tomorrow. She's fine, and all of this. So we actually got to stay, I think, I don't know if that was level 5 or if she was on level 5. We stayed in the hospital so that I could go up and breastfeed every 2 hours and give her her feeds. And they were good. Like, they let us go off as often as we needed to or wanted to. I think as the nights got on, I realised she was being well taken care of, and I could sort of not go off as often as I had to. Yeah, it was a lot to take in.
Yeah. It's a lot to learn at the beginning, isn't it? Hard to get your head around what it all means. Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit. I think I know a little bit about MSUD, but about the management, what you had to learn in hospital and what was happening, and what kind of instructions were you sent home with after that first week in hospital?
Yeah, we are very lucky. There's a group of us in Victoria, 4 of us, that have found each other, I think, through this website, through this Facebook group. So once, I think I might have even done it in the Flora, the social nurse, the social lady at the Children's that week sort of said, I know there's a few people around. I can't tell you who they are, but if you go on this website, you'll find them. So I think I jumped on pretty early and was like, hey, we're in Victoria, we've got this, what is it, who else is out there? And I had a lot of people reach out, which was good. So we actually learned a lot from them. I think we're the youngest of the group. There's another little boy, he's only 8 months older than Ava. So we've been very lucky in just feeding off them. But it feels like a complete lifetime ago. Like, she was on thiamine as well, so we had to split the tablets, crush them. I think they were once or twice a day. I can't even remember. She was on expressed milk, naan formula, and Animix. So it got a little bit much, and I just remember by Christmas, so we got out of there just before Christmas, and I ended up being told to stop breastfeeding because I was just falling apart. So we still were feeding her 2 bottles and the thiamine every 2 hours when we were home. I can't remember how long that went on for. I just remember my alarm constantly going off. I just set my phone to every 2 hours and it was on we go. And she was on weekly blood tests. So we were traveling to Shepparton every week. Then for a couple of months.
That's a blood plasma test. It's not a blood.
Sorry.
spot.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not. It's for the PKU families who are thinking, yes, we do that. No, it's not not doing a spot. Is that it's actually going in and having the full. Full deal.
Yes. Yeah. So we are now 3 weekly. I think everybody is completely different with how all of this happens. We were weekly for a long time, and then I think it went out to fortnightly. Now it's every 3 weeks, but she's happy with a blood test. You give her an immunization and she's, no thanks, it's not going here. It's going in my elbow and I'll do it. So she sits on the chair by herself now, rolls up her sleeve, and she's got a very good relationship with the lady that does it. So we usually have the same lady, and she's in and out within 5 minutes. So that's good.
And so the daily management, I think, obviously the thing that we all have in common is a low protein diet. So there's low protein diet. What else is part of your daily management in MSUD?
So Ava has coolers now, the MSUD cooler, which I'm pretty sure the PKU guys have as well. And Valine she takes daily. We do have sick day medicines and diets, but Ava is she's 15 grams a day, so we sort of stick to the 3 grams for the main meals and then snacks. She really struggles to stay full. She's just always hungry, always eating. Does have a good appetite for anything. Like, she'll eat. There's not much she won't eat, which helps. We did struggle a few times with daycare. One day I walked in and I just said, what was for lunch today? And they're like, oh, tuna sandwiches. And I said, yeah, what did Ava have? Tuna sandwiches. I was like, you're kidding me. So we've had so many issues with daycare, unfortunately. And that was my biggest fear. Like, I was like, I need to get back to work, but, I can't trust anyone with feeding her. And then that just hadn't helped. They did it a couple of times. And I just kept saying to them, we don't have an anaphylactic reaction. It's a couple of days later where you're going to affect it. Like, it's going to affect her. And it was just, it was getting out of control. So they now give me a diary. So she's at the long daycare now 2 days a week in 3-year-old kinder. So kinder, we take her lunch, which is fine. I get to do that. But yeah, daycare have to take photos and weight. Like, they've got the scales, they have to do the photos, everything like that. They just didn't get it. And I just kept saying, like, I couldn't even say to them, lucky she's mild, because I just had to keep saying, like, if she was anaphylactic, you wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't have done it more than once. You keep doing this, she's going to have brain damage because you've fed her the wrong thing. Like, yeah, we were hitting our heads against brick walls. But anyway, we're nearly at the end of the daycare.
Isn't it? When people haven't heard of it before, they don't really know. Okay, so daycare, and so how is she? Does she have a pretty good understanding of MSUD and what it means for her and what
she does? We've sort of told her before she could speak, like, we just would keep telling her. Now she's like, has that got protein in it? Can I eat that? She used to call it, if someone asked her what she had, I think it was like SMP. I have SMP because she just knew it was letters. She knows what it is now, and she knows she has stolen a few things. We did have another girl, Ruby. She was just here for the weekend, who she adores, and we learn a lot from them with how to do everything. And that's how she started taking her coolers, because they're not the nicest smelling things, and I can't imagine they taste very nice. But she now sculls them because Ruby sculls them and all of this. So she learns from Ruby a lot. And we just feed off them.
That's beautiful. It's the stories we love to hear, because that's what a group like this is all about, is those opportunities to learn from each other. And there's nothing more fun than seeing all the kids together, all of them drinking their formulas and just normalizing the whole thing for everyone. It's one of the things I most enjoy, that they get to see all the other kids do it, and it just becomes a thing that everybody.
That's right.
I know heaps of people who do it.
Yeah, and we do say to her, Ruby's doing this, so yeah.
I really, really like it. Okay, so daycare has been a bit of a challenge. And with these sick days, is there specific things that you need to look out for, or as soon as she's sick, you have to activate the sick day plan?
Ava's different again to the other kids. So some things will set her off and some won't. So she's had hand, foot, and mouth, I think 3 times, and only 1 time did it affect it. So generally we'll ring them and say she's got X, Y, Z wrong with her. They'll say do plasmas or a heel prick or a finger prick, either or. But because where we are, sometimes it's faster to get the result by doing a plasma because it gets couriered to Melbourne. So depending on what symptoms she's throwing, like if she's lethargic and just absolutely not herself, not drinking or eating, then we'll go straight to plasmas. Otherwise, we might just monitor her. So early on, we had like sick day diet, and we had the Duocal calories, and we would we'd halve her protein and do that, up her calories. Now, the last 2 times, like only a couple of weeks ago, she had a chest infection, and we didn't have to do anything. We just pricked her finger every day and sent that off, but it didn't budge. So we they just sort of play it by ear with Ava. Sometimes we might just have to drop it 2 or 3 grams rather than half of it. But we just keep her calories high when she's unwell and go from there.
Yeah. And so have there been other challenges or things you found particularly challenging on this journey?
No. Well, I mean, you sort of just learn to live with it. Like people say, how do you do it? But, you know, if you didn't, there's consequences. So, yeah, I mean, it's tricky. You go like early on when she just learnt to walk and grab things, like I was saying no to birthday parties because we went to one and she was just grabbing everything. And I was like, you don't understand. It's not fair on you. Things like that. Or if people were unwell, it's just like, look, we're not being silly by asking you not to come around. Like people just didn't fully understand it, I suppose. You just don't have the awareness. But then at the same time, everyone sort of knew as well. You know, if you said why, then they're like, yeah, no, that's fair enough. So, I mean, she hasn't, touch wood, had gastro yet. And I think that's one thing the children's are waiting on to see how she reacts to gastro and what her levels do to see if she's intermediate or intermittent. But there was an outbreak at daycare and I pulled her out because I was like, oh, you're too young. I'm not dealing with this yet. So, you know, things like that, you just sort of pull them out of the equation.
Those bits of anxiety and those sorts of things that you have, which are different kinds of anxieties that only another rare disease parent can fully understand. And how is she going? What are some of her favourite things? Tell us a little bit about her.
She's very determined, very independent. Yeah, she's very strong-willed, this child. she's doing well.
Yes. Well, that will be a good thing as time goes on. It's not always good when they're toddlers for us, but it's a good thing to have if you have that little extra challenge in life that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And does she ask a lot of questions about it?
Not really. Like just when she's eating something or when she wants to eat something. She stole Easter eggs at Easter time in her brother's room. We heard this noise, this bang, and we turned around and we're like, and we could see these feet under the curtain and she was eating them. I'm not sure what age group's listening on here, but generally Easter is lollies as opposed to chocolate. That's around the house and they're in like little plastic eggs that you can separate as opposed to chocolate. We did get the VitaFlow bunnies this Easter that just went. But yeah, I just, again, take the whole thing out of the equation.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's a lot easier to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
In there. And so, can you tell me a little bit? So, is MSUD similar to PKU in that it's a liver enzyme missing, or is there a different disease mechanism? What's the disease mechanism?
Yeah. So, I was actually asking Fiona that the other day. That's Ruby's mum, because I was like, "What is the difference between us and PKU?" So, ours is a faulty enzyme in the liver as well, and I could put this wrong, but Brent and I have both passed on this faulty gene. How I sort of explain it is that you get the two genes or a photocopy of the genes from your parents, and we're obviously carriers, and we didn't know that until Ava's diagnosis. So we've got a good and a bad one, and we've both passed on our bad ones to her, which has made her affected and us carriers. So I think the way Fiona explained it is that the enzymes that we can't break down in the protein are the essential ones. So leucine, valine, and isoleucine are the ones that we can't process properly, and they're the levels that we test through our amino acids plasmas. And if leucine has a high count, then that's where we've got to up the valine and the isoleucine to be higher than the leucine to stop it affecting and entering the brain. Yep. So, yeah, I think there was the key thing there that Fiona was trying to explain to me is that ours are essential, whereas I think the PKU ones aren't essential amino acids. Maybe.
So it's sort of similar in that it's a missing enzyme that can't break down a specific amino acid.
Yeah, the branched chain.
Yeah, and then the formula that's taken has the things that we can't, that our kids can't make. The formula has that in it, but we don't need to do any of that additional supplementation of the other amino acids that they're just in the formulas and processed in a pretty similar way. And so there's some of those additional supplementation that you talked about is not something that PKU families do. And although, there's, sick days definitely do or can affect levels in PKU, that the urgency or the seriousness around a sick day plan is different in PKU than it is in in fact most of the other the rarer ones. The sick day plan is a much more significant issue, and people with the other ones can become quite unstable much quicker than a
and I think ours is within a couple of days we can show side effects and symptoms, whereas I think with maybe PKU it can be a while.
It can be a while. It's much more cumulative with PKU, and I think it's one of those things. I mean, it's one of the things that we're lucky with PKU, I think, is that you don't have the really catastrophic things. And I think the flip side of it is there's no biological signal to a kid who's doing the wrong thing to stop doing it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We
did work out that we actually thought we had it easier in terms, because all we've got to look at on a label is the protein content, not the ingredients as such.
No, we just look at the protein content mostly. There's a couple.
Oh, do you? Right. Because I did wonder through the page where people ask about the isopoles.
Yeah, artificial sweeteners are made of phenylalanine, so people with PKU can't have those.
Right.
There's a few little differences. And look, I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it, what's better or what's worse?
Exactly.
It's just tricky, and I think I'm at the same school as you when people say, oh, how do you do it? I'm like, well, what choice is there?
Exactly.
There's no other choice. And so I don't think about doing it or not doing it. You just do it.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
And I think, at the end of the day, that's just the way it has to be. So so tell us, is there something that you would like other families to know about managing MSUD, or some things that you would like the community to do in terms of what would be better support that the community could provide?
I have no idea. Like you sort of look at it and you think it's so easily managed. If you manage it properly, it's so easily managed that you just wish there was a tablet they could take or something that would just, stop all of that and they could eat whatever they want. But I wouldn't and I was just saying to Fiona this weekend, I would love to be able to start finding a way for that, but you wouldn't know where to start because it's just so rare. I mean, we don't even know anymore.
So there is a potential clinical trial overseas for MSUD.
Yeah, I did hear that on the AGM parts of the clinical trial, yeah.
Yeah, so there is, I don't know how it's gone, but we had an initial conversation with that company who are doing that trial, and it was a trial where the technology that they were using would relate to any amino acid disorder, so not the organic acidemia or the urea cycle disorders, but all of the amino acid disorders potentially would benefit from that. So there are things happening, which is good news. And I think that I always say to the rare IM families also, if you're aware of things happening and you think that, there's potential in terms of participating in research or a trial, then you should reach out to MDDA and we'll see what we can do. I mean, it's quite difficult to get trials down for the really small numbers, but it's certainly worth trying.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so those trials, I think that there's a lot happening in the IM research space that is reason for hope, but as we know, it takes a long time from a start of research to something being available. So
exactly. Yep.
And we're lucky, aren't we, because it is so manageable and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, Tammie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and telling us more about MSUD. I found it really interesting because I didn't know that much about it and I didn't know much about the mechanism, so it's really, really useful. It sounds like Ava's a delight and that she's going to keep you on your toes.
Absolutely.
I think she's going to give you a run for your money by the sounds of things. And that's not a bad thing. I do think, I've talked to lots of parents over this year doing these things, and I think that our kids get a bit of extra resilience from having to do what they do, and that shows up in interesting ways. A little bit of determination will help her as she goes forward, and it's great that you've been connected in, and also that connecting has enabled you to, to make those connections with other families, and hopefully we have a whole crowd of MSUD families at the retreat in next October.
Yes, we were talking about that. We go away.
we're we'd love to see little groups of the other conditions come together and have some of their own sessions and their own activities to do. So, yeah, get your little gang together and bring them all to Sanctuary Cove. And
we shall try.
And, you know, the good thing is it'll be all a heap of kids drinking formula and eating.
Yeah, that's true.
Together, and it's a great thing to see, and they do make those friendships that we know are really, really important and useful. Yeah. So I'm just going to check if there are any questions that people want asked. I'm just if anyone has a question, just pop it in the Q&A. I'm just having a look now to see if there's anything in the Q&A. Okay, no, there are no questions in the Q&A. Must mean that you've explained it very well, Tammie. All right, I'm going to say thank you and goodbye, and I think Monique is going to come and join us.
Thank you so much for that, Tammie. That was really good to hear your story. Wow, can't believe being so far away and having something like that happen. So pretty amazing story. But thank you so much for joining us. Now, we've just got a few chat rooms that are open. We've got 2 chat rooms there. So anyone that's online, and I'm not sure, Tammie, if you've got the time to stick around or not. So
no, you're right.
If you're happy to, there's an other IEMs chat room and there's a new parents one. So all you need to do is click leave on the timeline and then jump out and jump in. And I'm not sure if there's too many people that will be sticking around tonight, but yeah, you're welcome to go in there and have a look. If anyone's got any questions or wants to have a quick one-on-one chat with Tammie, maybe meet her in the other IEM's room. I'm going to go and jump in the new parents room in case any new parents are online and want to join me. There might be some others joining in at 8:15. But thanks so much, Tammie. And yeah, as Louise said, really hope to see you at our retreat in October, if that's possible.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you everyone for coming along tonight.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
I can't hear you.